Center for Spiritual Living. This today, as I drove up the street to come here, I was flooded with memories. And it's memories at this center with Dell and Melita bringing their spring flowers. And so I know, like, I can just see the buds coming up and these magnificent bouquets that just remind us that life is bountiful and spring in Tulsa is magnificent. And just a few weeks ago, it was -5 degrees and we were huddled in our homes, which makes life so interesting. And I also thought about why we come together as a community. You know, there are churches all over the world. Lots of them reel in the masses through guilt, through a big stick, through obligation. And there's a place for that for people, and I bless everyone on their own spiritual path in whatever means works for them. But why do we come together in new thought, in unity, or religious science at Center for Spiritual Living? And one of the things I think, well, first to love each other. And I cannot wait for the day when we get to really hug each other again, to be able to connect in that physical way. But we're able to connect across in this room, social distance. We're able to connect across the internet, being able to see the folks who are out there in the world today. And we come together for spiritual practices. Why are we here? To help create and reveal a better life for ourselves, for our world. And we do that not through magic, magic's pretty cool. We do that through spiritual practices that we learn and teach through our founder, Ernest Holmes, through the organization that we're a part of in Centers for Spiritual Living that has a rich tradition of teaching classes. We learn the spiritual practices of meditation and affirmations. We learn how to do, to connect with the God within ourselves. And we also do that through other practices, including visualization, which is one practice, and visioning, which is another practice that is our theme for the month with Centers for Spiritual Living across the world. Now, we're taking a deep dive into vision this month, and thank you, Reverend Land, last week for setting us up on the step of the visioning process that is really released. What is it that I'm called to release in order to embrace the vision? So this week, it makes sense that we're moving into what do I need to become in order to embrace the vision. Now, the concept of visioning is an outflow of the creative process. That's one of the basic roots of the Science of Mind teaching. And Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind magazine in 1927, he's the founder of our movement. 1927, he said in our Declaration of Principles, we believe in the direct relation of truth to our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. So we believe in a direct revelation. We are able to connect to that energy, that source, that one, that God within, and we're able to reveal truth by being in contact with that indwelling God. We believe there's only one life and one power. And with that belief, we know that there's nothing outside of God. So when we tap into the space where we want to connect with the indwelling God, it's really, we have to be really careful to not believe in duality. As much as we believe, as soon as we say we're connecting to something, it may feel like something out there. And that's okay. It's part of our human construct where we see each other as different people and thank God there's so much difference and variety in who we are. But we've got to be careful in that concept to make sure that we recognize that we are connecting to God within. We are one with that energy, one with that source. So Ernest Holmes didn't necessarily say we're going to do a visioning process, and we're going to go into meditation, and we're going to get downloads from God. What he said is we are all one with that great God within, and that as we connect, as we process, as we meditate, as we connect with Spirit, that we're able to reveal things that are already there, right? Thomas Troward, who's one of the roots of the influencers of Ernest Holmes, and I'm teaching the Roots class this month. And he really believed that we are all connected to that vast universal source of life, and that we do so by allowing ourselves to be grounded and allowing ourselves to truly believe that if we believe in an infinite universe and there's nothing outside of ourselves, we also can believe that this universal presence and power has within it everything. You know, the idea for the Apple, the Dolores has the latest Apple 12, amazing piece of technology in her hand. That idea, that concept, that was created, it had to be just accessed and downloaded and resourced through the channel that was Steve Jobs and his infinite team of engineers and Imagineers who helped create that. But before I get into a deep talk about visioning, I want to talk a little bit about the concept of visualization and how it's different from visioning, right? One of the things we learn when we take baby steps, when we first move into the teachings of the science of mind, you know, sometimes we talk about manifesting that parking spot, right? How can we access these, you know, this connection to source where we begin to realize that we are part of the creative energy and source of life? And that as we align our energy with our intentions, that we have the ability to help create the world in which we live, co-create that with each other and with the teachings of the science of mind. So we also can then learn as we can create for something, we can visualize for something, and ultimately it's all about a vibrational match for what we want to experience in our life. Whether it's a thing, a concept, an idea, an experience, a relationship, financial abundance, or a better world in which we all can live. But Emma Curtis Hopkins, another teacher of Ernest Holmes, she says, as soon as we identify our good, we can be drawn to the lack thereof. So as soon as we identify, I want that thing, experience in our lives, we can also immediately go to the fact that I don't have it right now. So where is it? So she also says between you and your good is the absence of your good. So we can come into alignment by closing that gap with our vibrational energy. This is an exercise about what vibration are we bringing into the world for what we want to experience in our lives. And what we've learned is that it doesn't really have anything to do with the thing. You know, if I want a parking spot and I don't have the parking spot, why do I want the parking spot? I want it so maybe I'll be a little bit closer to the grocery store. Why do I want to be closer to the grocery store? So I won't be so frustrated by having to circle the parking lot. Oh, so I now want less frustration in my life. So why do I want less frustration in my life? So I feel better. Why do I want to feel better? So I can feel great. Why do I want to feel great? So I can have joy in my life. Why do I want joy in my life? Because it feels good. And I get to share it with everybody else. So as we peel away these layers of the things that we want or go on in our lives, we have an opportunity to come closer to the source, come closer to that quality of God that we want to experience in our lives, and have the ability to share that with ourselves and with others. So my wife, Kim, and some of the folks in the room and online know my wife, Kim. She has for many, many, many years visualized a house in San Diego. There's vision boards, there's pictures everywhere in our home. And will that happen? We'll see, right? Is it possible in the mind of God? One thing that Kim says is that any idea that's given to us, that's downloaded to us, that's accessed from the source, that idea already has within it everything necessary for the manifestation, creation of that good. But if you ask him why she wants that home, it could be for freedom. It could be for liberty. It could be for joy. It could be for creativity. There's lots of reasons for that. So I have been practicing as I'm doing the roots class again. Let me go back to remembering parking lot manifestation. And my daughter Eliza, who there's people in the room here who are present out just in the hospital holding vigil when she was born, almost 16 and a half, almost 17 years ago, folks. She got her driver's license last month, along with her twin brother, and they go to different schools. So I said, I want to manifest we want to manifest another car. Do we need a car? No. Would it make our lives easier? Yes. And someone in the room is going to laugh here because I have for 18 years wanted a 2003 orange pearl Honda Element. And there's one in the parking lot today when I drove up here today. This doesn't belong to anyone here?
16 years old. Going strong.
So Dolores just said it's 16 years old, 210,000 miles, going strong. And by the way, we go to the same mechanic for our car repairs. We've run into each other there. Well, I set this intention and I meditated on it. I worked with my prayer partner and said, you know what? I'd really like this car. Why? And why? Because I would feel super joyful, right? Why would I feel? I'd be excited about that. And so I came really close to manifesting that. I found one at a dealership. I called them. They said, come down and get it. You know, we'll work out a deal. And then they call me the next day and say, someone else just put a deposit on it. So I said, okay, no big deal. Let's let it go. Let's work on that in prayer again. If this is meant to be, then it will come available. Next 2 days later, the dealership texted me. It's all by text nowadays, and said, she backed out. So Ben and I got in our car, drove down to Muskogee. Long story short, we purchased the car a week ago and picked it up. And tomorrow I'm going to wash and wax it. And our Dolores and my mechanic, he's got it in tip-top shape because he knows how to keep these cars on the road for another 18 years. Yeah. So here I am, excited about having an 18-year-old boxy, some might say ugly, Honda Element that is in the color of sunset orange pearl. And here I am driving up to speak today. I'm not driving it. My son took it off with his bicycle in the back. But I pulled up here and I stopped. I was like, goosebumps to the top of my head, and said, who in this sanctuary owns that car? And of course, the person who's here is dressed in orange from head to toe, you can see. And she told me earlier today that orange is this color of protection, right? When you see an orange orb, it's there for protection. So now, okay, so why I manifested this car. Kim hasn't manifested the home in San Diego yet. It's not in form. And part of it can be the difference of believability. No, leave that in the realm, right? It may be easier to create a car, but I would venture to say there's a different piece of that, and that's I wasn't really attached to the outcome. You know, I could or could not have a car. I could or not have that specific car that I really wanted. And I was able to work with a practitioner and another minister. I said, let's play around with this. Let's pray for this. Let's go back to the basics. And one of the things a practitioner or a minister will do when they pray for you is they're going to release that prayer. They're going to express gratitude for what the gift that is, and then release that prayer into the law, knowing it's done. And we let it be. But at the end of the day, it's all about the energy, right? We believe that everything already exists in the one mind of God, and that ultimately, what our life experience is like, it doesn't matter what the things are or the conditions are. It matters what the vibration, what is the energy that we're bringing into our experience of life, and what energy are we bringing in advance to pull us in the direction of what it is that we want to have or experience in our lives and in our world today. So that's a little example of visualization where we set the tone to say, I would like this. And I'm going to hold the experience and the consciousness and then let go and then keep our minds open for where spirit is talking to us, where there's downloads, where the connections. With visioning, which is our theme for this month, visioning is open up to the impress of spirit. Visioning allows us to tap into the infinite world of possibilities to allow us to become more than we can even imagine ourselves. So it's not putting something into the law and then believing that's going to come manifest in form. It's about opening up and asking spirit, what is my highest vision for this thing? Now, I've done visioning over the years, and probably there's people here in this room or online who've done visioning, where you meditate and you get quiet and you ask the questions. And some people get a myriad of colors. Some people get a whole story. Some people get nothing. And some people get all this stuff through the experience of visioning and then say, yeah, that was totally me. That was totally me, just telling spirit what I wanted spirit to tell me. And the answer is sometimes all of this is true, but does it matter? Right? Does it really matter? It's about connecting down to that quiet place in ourselves, and then asking those questions about what it is we want to experience in our lives. So instead of being active, we are now changing to a position of receptivity, of listening with our hearts and with our minds and being open to that next connection that comes from God. So as a quick refresher, if we're doing a visioning meditation after we get prayed up and get connected and centered, we're going to ask, what is Spirit's highest intention, vision for my whatever it is? One of the greatest times I did visioning was in ministerial school, and there was a group of 5 of us that were scheduled to create a weekend-long retreat. And we were all doers and creators, and we knew we could do it, but we knew it would be much better if we did nothing but visioning for the month before we started planning this retreat. And that's exactly what we did. We met once every week or 2. We did a visioning meditation. We wrote down our notes, and then we waited to see how it manifested. And even during that time, I was thinking, like, I don't know how this is going to come together. And then finally, we sat down and we prayed up and we said, okay, let's plan this retreat. After doing the weeks of visioning, the idea simply came together. There was like a seamless energy, a gel and a flow that created one of the best retreat experiences that I've ever been on in my life. There are other people who might vision for, what's the highest vision for the Tulsa Center for Spiritual Living and its next minister. It might be for, I want to redesign my house. What's the vision that's coming through for my house? What's the vision that I want to call forth for a new job or new expression to bring a way for me to bring my gifts and intelligence and experiences into the world? To a performer, I'm scheduled to perform in a month. Let's vision on what I know what I want to do, but what is it how can I connect into divine source and let it come forward in a greater or maybe a more different or surprising way? And like all spiritual practices, they're a practice. We get to do it and do it again. We get to do it and think, wow, that didn't work, and do it again. We get to release and move through it to get to where we can really connect to the beauty of spirit and source. So the first question is, what is Spirit's highest vision for my life or for this situation? Next, what must I become in order to allow or empower this vision? And then, as Reverend Lynn talked last week, what must I release in order to allow this vision? And Lynn, I love the way you talk about the importance of self-forgiveness in that process. Like how many times we can get in our way by judging and holding on to the times that things worked or didn't work, to really be able to release it and to be able to forgive ourselves and others to allow that to come through. And this week, we talk about what must I embrace in order to allow this vision? What must I embrace? And sometimes when I do visioning, I got to remind myself that this process is not, it's not necessarily what do I think I need to release in order to embrace this vision. What does the God within me know beyond a shadow of a doubt what it is that I need to release in order to embrace or embody this vision? And they're kind of two different they're two different things. Then again, God and I are one. Is it me? Is it God? Does it matter? What is coming through in this creative energy and field where I have allowed myself to be immersed and connected to spirit? So the question in a broader term is, what beliefs, what ideas, what actions must we embrace, embody, and become to live in alignment with the vision that's coming through? What must I be receptive to that will move me into greater alignment with the vision? What possibilities am I open to? Think how many limitations we put on ourselves. As soon as Kim says, I want to have a home where I feel magnificent and opulent and energized and creative, and if she immediately puts on, and I don't have that and don't see how I can ever get it, then we're going to stop right there. And we're going to go back to square one and begin again. We get to begin again with asking of spirit, what is the highest and greatest vision for my life? What ideas do I want to invite into my consciousness about this greatest and highest vision? What changes? Okay, remember, we're talking about embracing. What changes do I wrap my arms around, hold lovingly, and nurture? What serves to transform me? So I'm asking of spirit, I'm asking of God within, what must I embrace in order to allow this vision? So what changes do I wrap my arms around, hold lovingly, and nurture in order to allow this vision to come through? And the downloads that can come from that could be life-changing and life-altering. They're tender, they're loving, they're open. And it may take you back and say, uh-oh, here are some things that I still need to release. What do I need to fully embrace? We also ask in vision, another way to say what do I need to embrace is, what must I embody? So embody is a little different from embracing, right? Embracing is holding onto or catching or grasping. Embodying is like, okay, this is now becomes part of who I am. What must I know so deeply that it becomes casual, almost taking the form of me? Michael Beckwith says, we pray affirmatively, not about how to accomplish the vision, but rather about the ways in which we need to grow. What qualities do we need to embody? What is it that I need to grow in order to fully allow this vision to come forward and to come through in my life? And he says, by asking what qualities you must cultivate in support of your vision, you come into direct contact with your growing edge. I am very willing to live in my comfort zone because it feels comfortable and safe, and there's no risk of losing out when I'm staying in my comfort zone. But when I'm willing to ask of God, how can we together go to the growing edge of who I am? as a conscious, co-creative spiritual being, as a human being walking through this world, doing my best to not stub my toe and being willing to take the risks that say, okay, Spirit, I'm willing to embrace what is being called to come through. And finally, we talk about becoming, embracing and embodying our activities of consciousness and cultivation. So from a divine sense, we're asking, what divine qualities within me am I being called to remember as my truth? So we came back again to what I talked about earlier. That's I call it the "so that" exercise, and I learned it in my foundations class from Reverend Doug Fogelsong, my first teacher, where we just simply do that exercise about life. I want to have this experience thing, whatever it is in my life, so that. And eventually, through repeating that question of "so that," we're going to get in what is the divine truth that's being called forward here. If any of you are ever in a session with a practitioner, the practitioner is kind of listening to what you have to say while not being attached to your story. But all we're really hearing is what is the divine truth that's being called forward in this situation. So when we're in the process of visioning and we're asking the question, what am I to embrace in order to allow this vision to come through? Ultimately, there's going to be a God quality underneath it. We get to peel off the human experiences as we're releasing limitations, and we get to move into the embrace of that God quality within that's calling us to be what we need to be in order to allow that vision to come through. One of the things that's interesting about visioning is that one of the most powerful steps of it is letting go at the end, just like when we pray. And then being aware in the moments that come afterwards. What are those thoughts before we go to sleep that night after visioning? What are the dreams we have overnight after we've done the visioning? What are the waking thoughts when we begin to shake off sleep and begin to embrace the day? What's the daydream that happens the next day while I'm at a stoplight in my orange 18-year-old Honda Element? And that's where wisdom comes. So that just like when we do prayer, when we do visioning, it doesn't necessarily end with the closing of the process or the treatment at the end to ground the experience of visioning. That we don't, God isn't like a television, right? That we turn on and change the channel. I guess God is a television too. But what it really, that by connecting into the God within, the God of our understanding, the God of our knowing, that we are able to let that frequency continue with the energy that we bring to our lives. And it doesn't mean if we're feeling down to flip a switch and be up. There may be a process of going from one to the next. But to remember that the energy that we're putting behind our intentions in life, when the energy that we're putting into that first question, that is, what is the highest vision for my life? That we get to make sure that we remain as best we can a vibrational match for that vision to come through. So if I'm down or in a bad mood and I'm now blocking my good from coming to me, it may take a bike ride. It may take a song. It may take going to church on Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning. It may come through journaling so that we remain connected and keep that energy and that vibrational power up for us. And when I heard this talk title, Arms Wide Open, or what's it called? With Open Arms. I thought of the Creed song, and I thought about having Del sing it, but I don't know. He is a rock god. But Creed said, well, I just heard the news today. It seems my life is going to change. I close my eyes, begin to pray. Then tears of joy stream down my face. With arms wide open, under the sunlight, welcome to this place. I'll show you everything with arms wide open. And so it is.